There's a Latin phrase that you've probably heard some variation of, per aspera ad astra. It means through adversity to the stars. It means that greatness, glory even, comes at a cost. It's true in real life, and it's certainly true in legend. Indeed, some of the most enduring Greek and Roman stories have elements of suffering and sacrifice in them. That's what makes them epic. And the story of Rhea Silvia is no different, even if her name and her sacrifice tends to be overshadowed by that of her great son, Romulus, the legendary founder of Rome. I'm Debra May Macleod, an author of historical fiction on ancient Rome and particularly the ancient religious order of the Vestal Virgins. This is the priesthood of women tasked with keeping the eternal flame of the goddess Vesta alive in her temple in the Roman Forum. Yet while we tend to think Rome when we think of the Vestals, the Vestal order existed long before Rome did. And one place it existed was in Alba Longa, an ancient city located in the Alban Hills southeast of the area that would become Rome. Alba Longa was an important and successful city long before Rome was, and it boasted its own great traditions. The city was founded by a man named Ascanius, who, as a child, had escaped the burning city of Troy with his father, the famous Aeneas. Ascanius, in turn, gave rise to the Silvian dynasty of kings, including King Numitor Silvius, the father of Rhea Silvia. Yet being born a princess of Alba Longa, it wasn't enough to protect Rhea Silvia from the torments that the fates had in store for her. Her suffering begins when she witnesses her father, Numitor, deposed by his ambitious brother, Romulus. And if Rhea had any hopes that her uncle might let her continue to live her royal life in peace, those hopes, they're quickly dashed. After all, she was a threat to him. He couldn't risk her having a son that might grow up to exact his revenge and reclaim the throne. So, either not wanting to appear more of a tyrant, or perhaps out of some lingering affection for his niece, Romulus doesn't actually kill Rhea. Instead, he compels her to become a priestess of Vesta, a Vestal virgin, knowing that her vow of chastity will protect him. Now, Rhea's life has been saved, but unfortunately, this princess-turned-priestess doesn't find peace serving the goddess either. And neither does Romulus find peace, since he isn't able to prevent his worst fear from materializing, for it so happens that Mars, the great war god, sees Rhea at the temple. He's taken with her, and one fateful night, he impregnates her. Or does he? Maybe Rhea's pregnancy wasn't the product of a divine union, but of something more terrestrial. Maybe a soldier or a guard. Maybe she wasn't willing at all, but a victim. Either way, she gives birth to twin sons, Romulus and Remus, and Romulus panics because he can't let them live. Now, imagine Rhea's torment so far. She's seen her father deposed. She's been forced into a life she didn't choose. She's conceived and she's given birth under some very suspicious and probably quite traumatic circumstances, and now she's having her newborn children ripped from her arms, and she knows why. She knows that her uncle is going to kill them. And she's right. That's his plan. But as they so often do, the fates have other plans. So the infants end up being put in a basket and sent down the Tiber River. And this is that great mythology that you might already know. The basket comes to rest against the shore where it's found by a she-wolf. The wolf nurses the infants, filling them with that wildness and that resourcefulness that they will need to survive. And then, eventually, they're discovered by a shepherd. He takes them home, and he and his wife care for them. So the infants are good, at least for now. But poor Rhea. Imagine the torment of not knowing, of imagining the worst, of reliving every day that anguish of having your newborns taken away, of not knowing how they were killed or whether they suffered. Imagine the grief and the speculation. Imagine the hatred she must have had for her uncle and her enemies, and the unquenchable thirst for revenge. She's a woman who has quite literally had everything taken from her, her future as a royal woman, her freedom, and her own children. Now, Rhea's story, it's a really big one, a dramatic one, and yet at this point, we tend to kind of veer off to follow the story of Romulus and Remus. The two brothers grow up, they learn of their royal lineage, they avenge their grandfather Numitor, and then, very famously, they begin to fight over where to found their new city. Romulus wants it on the Palatine Hill, Remus on the Aventine, and Romulus ends up murdering his brother during the conflict. That crime, It's the sacrifice upon which Rome is built. And that's really the point of all of this, because it's the founding story of Rome. And if it's going to really mean something, it has to incorporate that sentiment. Greatness takes suffering and sacrifice. Romulus comes to understand that, but no one understands it better than Rhea Silvia. Now, all of this has been a fairly gloomy and very abridged, very linear look at the life of Rhea Silvia. She is an important figure of history and legend, and there's a lot more to her story than what I presented here. In fact, her life is the subject of my novel, Rhea Silvia. What happens to her in captivity? How does she conceive? Is she ever liberated or reunited with her sons? Does she see their conflict? Does she have any agency in all of this? She does, after all, have the blood of greatness in her. Rhea Silvia's life is an exciting one, an emotional one, a complicated one, and yes, at times, a tormented one. Yet despite the torments, and perhaps even because of them, her story is unforgettable. It's epic. Moreover, it's intimately and essentially tied to that story of Romulus and Remus and the founding of Rome. Because without Rhea Silvia, Romulus' great city by the Tiber, the Eternal City, it never would have existed in the first place.